Welcome to This Wasn't on the Test, the podcast where knowledge meets humor in the most unexpected ways. Join Dr. Jake and Dr. Kayla, a couple with doctorates in their respective fields, and their sister Kelsey, who may not have a PhD but sure knows how to keep things light with her quick humor and relatable take on the world. Whether you're a scholar or just a curious mind, this trio will make you laugh, think, and you might even learn something new. Tune in to find out why this wasn't on the test. Hello, welcome to This Wasn't on the Test. I'm Kelsey, and I'm here with my brother, Dr. Jake Berg, and my sister-in-law, Dr. Kayla Berg. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
Do you know what showed up on my Facebook memories yesterday?
Oh, God. What?
I know that 4 years ago yesterday was when Jake became Dr. Jake Berg.
Oh, that's fun.
I know. It showed up on my Facebook memories, and I made a note of it to talk about it.
That's very cool.
Been Dr. Berg for 4 years.
That should be something we talk about sometimes is our defenses.
Oh, God.
They're interesting to talk about.
I'm not far enough away. That was traumatizing. Mine was, listen, I was there for yours and you were there for mine. Mine was much... They were trying to kill me.
Yeah. Yours was pretty
Are you saying
intense.
that Jake is smarter and did a better delivery than you did?
No, I'm saying the people on my committee were brutal.
They were.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any doubts that she was going to pass, but it was very brutal. But so bad that I could tell, like, you know, for the person who was getting the grilling, she would feel pretty bad. And she did.
I did. I felt terrible. And that's the terrible part. Like, when you do it, there's like an interim period where, like, you have done your thing. They've asked your questions. They've grilled you. And then you have to wait. And they go and talk and decide whether or not you're going to, like, pass or not. And it is the most terrifying time period. And I remember Jake came, because I did this all online. So Jake came upstairs to my craft room, and he, like, knocks on the door, and he opens the door, and I just start sobbing, because I'm like, I failed. I'm never going to pass this. They hated it. Like, it was dramatic.
Yeah. I can imagine.
So, yeah.
That sounds really terrible.
So Jake's defense was 4 years ago yesterday.
Wow, very cool. I thought you were going to say something like much more wild, like something really stupid about me, but here we are. It's Jake getting his doctorate. Very cool. Well, congratulations, Dr. Jacob Berg. Okay, cool. Well, this is episode 5. Which is kind of fun. I can't believe we've stuck with it. Honestly, like, I feel like this is like one of those things that we would start doing for a little bit. Not that 5 is like something groundbreaking. Like we'll talk when we hit 100. But I feel like, I mean, I've tried doing a podcast before, and my podcast that I tried doing by myself, one time about motherhood, which I have no business talking about because, well, I'm a great mom, but
you are a good mom.
Not one to, like, give advice. Like, people don't want my advice because it's not very traditional. But it's easy to just, like, start a podcast and then not follow through with it. So here's to us. We did skip recording yesterday, but here we are today.
Kelsey's fault.
It was my fault.
It won't
My kids were
affect
puking.
the release of any, but it's just the day after we have been normally scheduling.
We've normally been recording on Mondays, and today's a Tuesday.
Yeah, but I mean, we've been enjoying doing it, so that's the key, and that makes it easier to continue doing. So
yeah, it's been fun. I was telling Mom, I was like, oh, it's been so fun. Jake and Kayla and I are, like, getting to, you know, we're talking, like, all week, and then we are recording, and it feels like we're hanging out, and it's so fun. And then I was like, did you listen to our podcast? And she's like, I listened to one episode. And I was like, did you like it? And she said, it's different.
I mean, I feel like that's how she feels about all of the shit that we come up with. Like, anytime we're like, let's do this thing. And she's like, okay, guys.
For sure. Like, when I came up the stairs wearing a Viking hat and I said I was going to drink a cocktail out of it.
And you did.
Yeah. And I did.
Or, you know, time we hid ducks all around her house, or gave her a penis mug.
That's right.
All the stuff. Wrapped her entire kitchen in Christmas paper on Christmas Eve.
We got to come up with another prank for this summer.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we could just blatantly talk about it on here, and she'll never hear
never
it.
listen.
She won't. She's not going to listen to all of our episodes.
An unsupportive twit. Just kidding. I
I
love
know.
her.
We need to just go onto her phone and download the episodes so we get the download.
There you go.
That feels like cheating.
So, Jake, how many downloads are we at? Can you give us an official update?
Oh, he's going to go looking right now. Oh, we refresh. Oh,
123 total.
1, 2, 3.
All 4 episodes. 12
shit.
today, though, with the new episode coming out today.
Oh.
Cool. That's exciting.
One of my coworker friends has it set to like auto download when there's a new episode. That makes me so happy.
Yeah,
Aw,
it's really
that's
cool
fun.
seeing like social media posts and then seeing the downloads come up like as people are seeing that we released one. So really appreciate everybody listening.
Yeah, definitely. And people following us online too. That's really fun. On Instagram at This Wasn't on the Test. Yep.
Yep,
That's
you got
what
it
is.
right today.
I don't know.
Proud of you.
It trips me up. So yeah, like our page, download our podcast, become like a subscriber. All of that helps.
Reviewing would really help too.
Yeah. Yep. Reviewing would definitely help. I think the only review on there is my own review. So
Wow.
Oh wait, you're
Come
the
on,
Kelsey
people.
B. Rose?
that was me. Did you know? It was me. So yeah, cool, very exciting. Okay, so before we get into it, before we started recording, Kayla was telling us that she was grieving, and I thought maybe the hamster died, but it wasn't the hamster. It was the Pope following the JD Vance visit.
Okay.
That she's grieving.
No, this has nothing to do. My grieving of the Pope has nothing to do with JD Vance. Although if I had to sit across from him, I might just die too. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. No, I cannot believe you don't know this. I have, I am not, let me preface this. I'm not Catholic. I've never been Catholic, whatever. I have a weird, fascination, I guess is the right word, with, the Pope.
The papacy.
Some may
With the papacy. I think that's a better word. With the papacy, with the whole, pomp and circumstance around it, and especially, when a Pope dies, and then they have, conclave to, pick a new Pope. I'm fascinated by the whole thing. I have watched this every time there's been a new Pope in my lifetime. This is now the 3rd time. And I will be, I have my alarm set for 4 a.m. on Saturday to get up and watch the funeral. I'm invested in a weird way and have been for a long time. To the point where,
some may call it a fetish.
No! You make it weird. My mom texted me on Monday and is like, I'm so sorry for your loss. And, my grandma texted me today and she said, have you received an invitation to the funeral? And, it's a whole thing.
How did I not know this about you?
No.
Well, you do like a lot of true crime and cult stuff, so.
This is not that. Calm down. Don't talk about my Pope like that.
Oh, you don't think he's a
Well,
cult
he's a-
leader?
Stop. I have no idea how you have not known this. This is a whole thing.
I guess it is ringing a little bit of a bell because weren't you in Italy once and you went to the Vatican and stuff?
I still have a rosary hanging in my car that was blessed by the Pope.
Okay, I did know that. So I guess I
See?
did maybe mildly know it, but if somebody would have been what is Kayla's weird obsession?
I wouldn't put it number 1, but it's
No.
definitely one of them.
What would you put number 1, Jake?
True crime.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, I don't think that's weird.
Well, maybe not weird, but
But yeah, I guess a pop culture obsession. Yeah.
yeah.
No, and it's not even a specific Pope. It's the whole concept of the papacy. Just
Well, hopefully the dude from Wisconsin doesn't get chosen because he is anti-divorce, anti-abortion, anti-women's rights, anti-everything. So let's all pray to Jeebus that doesn't happen.
follow-up confession. I've started a spreadsheet of the front runners for Pope.
Oh my god. This took a weird turn.
This is a thing. I'm sorry that you didn't know this until right this moment. But here we are.
Keep me updated. Let me know when the white smoke's flying.
I will let you know.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see if they continue going progressive or if it goes the
fingers
other
crossed.
way. Yeah. Not it affects my life a whole lot, but
I know, but Frankie was a good time.
yeah, he seemed like a legitimately mostly decent
Yeah.
person.
Well, we need people like that in like major organizations like that are progressive to continue to move the world forward at our
Amen.
current juncture.
It is interesting though that like the Roman Catholic Church, they're kind of one of the best recorded sets of history
Just in terms of
history.
like record keeping type stuff. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm sure it's been like in the Angels and Demons movie, you know, like they
The
go
Vatican
down
archives.
into the archives
Oh my
and stuff.
god.
I'm sure that's not really what they look like or like the type
But
of
like
security
going
that
to
they
the
have.
Vatican archives
But
is on
like,
my bucket list. Like
I
if
do
could-
know that they have like really, really good record keeping just because like they've always just had so much money to put towards doing that over the last 1,000 years, you know, so which is an interesting part about it from a historical context.
Yep.
That's cool.
I've decided. Nope, go ahead.
I was going to say other news in like not pop culture, but like current society. 3 historians from Yale have now retreated to Canada, so that's exciting. They're leaving the United States. I don't know if boycotting is the right word. But when the historians leave,
So my
we have an issue.
passport is current.
Mine's not, so I'm stuck here.
Going one is one thing, staying is another.
True. That's a conversation for a different time.
Oh man. I have a more.
Do we want to get into it?
Nope. I have a
Yes.
more lighthearted something before we start.
Okay.
I have taken.
Good call.
I have taken notes on funny things my kids have said in the past week in class, and I have my top 2 for you all here today.
Amazing.
Starting with, an octopus is really just a wet spider.
Good point.
These are words that have said.
Good point.
Not wrong.
My favorite one that has been said in the past week between 2 of my 8th graders. Do you even know the rules to eating a banana? Hang tight. It keeps going. He goes, number 1, you don't hold it with 2 hands. Number 2, you don't take big bites. And number 3, you don't make eye contact. For the record, all 3 of these things were happening when this child decided to tell his peer about the rules to eating a banana.
Oh my god.
And I about fell out of my chair. Because
those are great rules. What
Yeah,
happens when
no.
you break them?
I mean, you get shunned from public society. Can you imagine like 2-handed eating a banana while staring someone in the eyes and taking ginormous bites?
I have done that before.
Of course you have. But those are the rules to eating a banana.
With
Like,
the intention of being a weirdo, I think you mean.
there are rules.
I have different words for the weirdo, but yep,
What are your words?
no say.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
let's get into it.
Okay, should we get into it? This week we are talking about. I don't remember what you guys
This
assigned
is your
each other.
first test
So
every episode is, does Kelsey remember what we're talking about?
I'll never remember.
Kayla's going to talk
What
about
are we?
the identification process for gifted students.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's interesting. I'm excited about that. Jake, what are you talking about?
Like space.
Oh yeah,
travel
space
and-
Oh,
travel.
yeah.
I remember
have
now.
so many questions.
It's all
Mhm.
coming back.
So,
It's all coming back.
but
so
Kayla's going
good.
first this week.
I'm first this week?
Yep.
Ooh. Okay. We have a lot of questions off the top on this one. A lot of my questions are front end heavy in this particular segment. But we're going to talk about
Perfecto.
how gifted students are identified. Starting with question number 1. What determines if a student is gifted?
I have for your particular school district, I have a big advantage because our kid has started to go through this process.
Okay, so how about you be quiet and Kelsey
Yeah.
answer the question?
Do they measure the brain size?
That's called eugenics. No.
Okay. I don't know what the formal method is, but I mean, I think it's obvious when a kid is really gifted, right?
Uh-huh.
And so then a teacher suggests that they go into a gifted program. I don't know.
And then that's it? Bada bing, bada boom?
Bada bing, bada boom.
Okay, cool.
No testing required.
I mean, you kind of got part of it, right?
I mean, you're not entirely wrong. So before I get to the answer to it, my follow-up question is what areas can be identified for gifted services?
Ooh,
Question
is
to
it
your
like
question.
reading, math, and English?
Those are 3 of them.
How,
Actually, that's only 2 of them. Reading, language arts is under one umbrella. So that's 2.
question to your question is how like standardized across state and country are these like categories
Um,
in terms of gifted? I mean, obviously,
across the state of Kentucky, standardized.
okay.
Across the country, less so. This is another one of those things, contrary to popular belief, states decide about like how gifted identification happens and what areas are identified for gifted and how the process for each of those. That's a state level thing.
But does every single district have like a gifted program? Because like I'm sure, maybe just because I wasn't in the gifted program, I don't know. But like I don't remember a gifted program at any of the schools I went to.
Bad news, Kelsey. All the schools you went to
there
had
was
gifted
one.
program.
No.
Oh.
That also changes from in Kentucky. That changes from district to district. We're lucky enough to live in a district where we have 8 GT teachers for the district, which doesn't sound like a lot, but there are districts where they only have 1, and that teacher's entire job is just to do the paperwork. So we have 8 for the whole district, and I want to say, don't quote me on this, something like 6 out of those 8 teachers are funded by our like local board of education. So like our district values gifted education, our superintendent values it, and so it's something that is funded. But that's not true everywhere. But yes, the district you grew up in, Kelsey, did have a gifted program.
Wow.
So back to my question. Besides reading and math, what other areas can be identified for gifted services? Jake, you should know at least 2 more. Science.
There's a creativity
History.
one.
Creativity is one. Social studies.
Social studies was the other one I was going to say. The math, science, reading.
Is there like an engineering or like a STEM technology one?
That's
Ish.
science.
We have science. We also have a general intelligence category.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then we also have
Leadership?
non-academic areas like dance, instrumental music, vocal music, visual arts, creativity, and leadership.
Oh, cool. So that's like life skills essentially.
Well, it's more like the arts. Like you have your academics and then you have your non-academics. So you have more like art things, creativity things, less traditional presentations of giftedness or giftedness in non-academic areas.
So could you be not academically gifted, but then get into the basic arts and stuff as gifted?
Yes.
Okay.
I have several students who are gifted in like just leadership or just creativity or just, and they like, for those it's a little, then we get into GT scheduling, but that's a whole other thing. What the subjects that the GT classes that they take differ for those students and is more on a case by case basis, but yeah, you can be gifted in just leadership.
Cool.
So
I love that.
I know, me too. So back to this. For identifying gifted students with academics, the first thing we usually start with is testing data. And this is just mostly because it's used as kind of like a universal screener. Everyone's going to take these tests. We do testing for reading and math 3 times a year. It's happening right now, so I'm screening test scores at both of my schools looking for kids who have a qualifying score. We test social studies in 5th and 6th grade. We test science in 4th and 7th grade. And we test general intelligence in 4th grade. And that test is hard. Did I show you that? I've showed you that test before. It's called the Naglieri Nonverbal Aptitude Test is what we use. And it's like entirely like pattern recognition and problem solving. It's very much like an IQ test.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I think I've seen a couple questions.
Yeah. Our kid is GT in general intelligence. She passed the test.
Ooh, wow. She's
How did
so
that
smart.
happen?
She takes after her aunt.
Can we cut to 3 seconds ago when
Footage
Kelsey
not
didn't
found.
know of that her own district had a GT program? Let's go back there.
Well,
no, just kidding.
You guys really lucked out because she looks like me and
She
she's
does
smart.
look like
Kelsey,
you.
we'll have her do some tricks for you, and you're here. But
Oh my god,
it's crazy how good she is at math.
her
She's better than I was at math at her age.
her brain
Like,
works
easy.
so fast. Like she was doing right now, she's working on exponents. She's in 5th grade. She's doing exponents in math.
I don't even know what an exponent is.
Cool.
So here we go.
It's like 5 squared. That squared is an exponent.
Squaring things is.
So she was having
Okay.
she was having to do exponents, and she was having to figure out 9 to the 4th power. So she's like, I'm gonna need a calculator for this one. And I'm like, okay, but what are you gonna type into the calculator? Like, I wanted to make sure she was I'm gonna do 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. Like, so that like I knew that she had processed it the right way to do the calculator.
So 36. Did I get it right?
That's 9 times 4.
Oh.
It's 9 times
27.
9 times 9 times 9.
Oh.
Anyways.
There's a reason I wasn't in the gifted and talented program.
We know. Love you anyways. So I'm like, I was making her sure that that's what she was going to type in. And she goes, well, I'm going to type in 81 times 81. 9
Which
times
is
9.
correct,
I
Kelsey.
don't get
just
it.
for
Which
your-
is correct because it's
for your
9
information.
times 9 times 9 times 9. So she just did 9 times 9, which is 81. And 9 times 9, which is 81. So she knew she needed to multiply together 81 times 81.
Wow. She is very smart.
She's very smart.
And it's what, 6,000 and something?
It's a lot. Well, 8 times 8 is the 640 something. Yes, Jake?
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
I was close.
So close. So anyways, we use this testing data and we review this testing data to find students who have a qualifying score. Which brings us to question number 3. What is a qualifying score?
Ooh. Is it on like a 0 to 100 basis?
Yes. So we used
Okay.
all of our tests have to be norm referenced, which means it's all percentiles.
Okay, so is 93% or above in the gifted range?
Okay. Jake, what's your guess?
That's 95%, but on the norm scale, right?
Both wrong. It is 96.
I meant above 95.
No, 96.
So, like greater
okay.
than 95.
Okay, that's
so
not what you said.
technically,
It's 96 percentile and above. So only 4% of students are going to qualify as being gifted in any given subject. It's like your top 4%.
this is percentile,
What an
though.
ME test.
Percentile.
Not like 96% on the test.
No, 96th
96th
percentile.
Yeah.
Like they're scoring higher than 96% of their peers.
Oh, dang. I was proud of Zeke for scoring 80% higher than all of his peers
I mean,
and all of his stuff.
That's great.
That's still high.
That's still high.
Look at me having a smart kid.
I don't know how those genetics got there, but here we are.
I don't know.
So,
Nature versus nurture.
right. She has nurtured him correctly, even if his genetics were poor. No, I'm just kidding. I love him. It's not.
I know.
Okay.
We all do.
So then that's 1. We have to have 3 pieces of evidence to consider qualifying a student for gifted services. So the first one is typically a test score, and especially if it's an academic area. We'll talk non-academics in a minute. And then I fill out the beginning part of a teacher referral, which is just like I find if it's a reading test, I figure out who their reading teacher is. I fill out the top part with all the student information, and then the teacher fills out a checklist and a list of their like an anecdotal remarks about their like strength related to that subject area. And so then our checklist gets scored 2, and we have a minimum score on the checklist that they have to get. So then that's our 3 pieces of evidence. If you have the 96th percentile test score, I want to say they have to have 75% on the checklist, and then their notes about their strengths. And then I take all of that information to a committee of teachers in that building, and we have a blind committee meeting. So they see all the information on a student, but not who the student is. So that's not
Oh, wow.
biased. And so then from there, that committee can look at the data and decide whether, yes, that student should qualify for gifted services, no, they shouldn't, or we also have the option to defer, which is like, let's push it off, get more data, gather work samples, wait till the next round of testing, whatever it may be. That this looks like it could be, but we need more to it. So they could have the 3 pieces of evidence and still not make it if the committee doesn't think that that's going to be a good fit. Then after that, we have to get permission if they qualify, if the committee decides that, yes, that based on the data, they qualify for gifted services. Then I have to send home paperwork to the parents for them to give me permission to provide services. And it does happen, not very often, but it sometimes happens where a parent will be like, nope, I don't want them in GT.
Why?
It has happened
it's a
to
different,
me.
like, social structure.
It has happened to me twice in the last 3 years, only 2 times. Once was because this mom thought it was going to be too hard. It's going to be too hard.
Oh.
He doesn't want to do it because it's hard. I'm like, okay. And then another one, it was because, well, none of his friends are in GT.
Wow.
So it has happened. It's very, very uncommon.
Question.
Yeah.
Is the test the only way that kids get put on your radar initially? Like, they have to hit that score?
No. I mean, that's usually how it is, because the only other way for a kid to end up on my radar is if a teacher recommends them. Like, teacher's like, hey, I think this kid might be gifted. But even then, we still have to go back and look at test scores to see if
But they could be close and still move
right
forward.
they could be close. And we have what's called special considerations, where we can look at kind of extenuating circumstances on a case by case basis, where like the student is close to the
if they're
96.
at 95, yeah.
Right, the student is close to the 96 percentile, but here's some other things we need to consider in this case.
Follow-up question.
Okay.
Have you ever had like a teacher and parent be adamant that their kid was gifted, but their test scores were like way off?
Parent, no. Teacher, yeah. And I'm like, I will keep watching, but no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm doing my best.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yes. Like, oh, but they're and they usually have very good points. Like, they perform really well in class. They are doing better than their peers, and all of that can be true. That they can be a great student and still not be gifted. So it's
right.
It's weird, and it's hard to explain sometimes.
Yeah. But also, those things require some third party to be proactive about going to you to put them out there.
Because, like, I don't know, between both of my schools, it's 1,200 kids.
Yeah.
I don't know 1,200 kids. I'm relying entirely on test scores.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I'm screening it by myself, it is raw numbers. And the nice thing that we have going for us is that we can use local norms. So when, like, right now all the kids are doing iReady testing, which is reading and math, and it like immediately shoots out a test score and a norm. Like, we know what they're in, but their norms are their national norms. So we know where they're performing, what percentile they're at nationally immediately. What we do as a district, because we have enough students and enough data points, we wait till everyone in a certain grade level is finished, and then we norm that grade level. So they don't have to compare nationally, they just have to compare to their local peers, which makes it a little bit more accurate and a little bit more fair, a little bit more equitable.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we also even break it down even further into like feeder patterns. So we have like the north end of our district, the central part of our district, and the south end of our district has enough students that we can use 3 separate, we call them feeder norms, which is good because the parts of our district are very different, like demographically and financially. And
well, also love it or hate it, there is some component of the, I don't want to say teaching quality, but I do mean like how well the kids are taught they do on the test.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's everything that goes in it.
Right.
That does have a big part in it, though, because like I think I was saying like a couple weeks ago that I was with a colleague and they were talking about their kids that were doing AP testing, and one of them had a great teacher that had been doing it for years, and they knew exactly how to teach them to prepare them for the test, and the other student was maybe a little bit more gifted than the first student, but their teacher was a brand new teacher. They hadn't taught AP classes yet and didn't know how to prepare them for a test, and that student failed.
Yeah.
So it does, I think there's a lot to say about a teacher that can teach to prepare kids for specific things like that.
Also, it should be clear that I'm not trying to say that any part of our specific place is better or worse in terms of teaching quality, but also like, the tests sometimes get written with like a certain category having more questions or something. And so like maybe the south side of the county didn't teach that one category, so all their test scores are lower just because those kids didn't get the focus on the one category that happened to show up a lot on the test.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that is a consideration. That's not the primary reason why we use
No,
like local
but-
norms and feeder norms. That it has more to do with like the demographics and the like socioeconomic status of the different regions of our district, and trying to create
Give everybody the same shot.
yeah, make a more equitable playing field. And there's a lot of research about using local norms as opposed to national norms and the benefits of that. So we've done that for years, as long as I've been doing GT, and I know it's been before that. So I think it's a good practice. So,
Cool.
however, when we get to the non-academic areas, there's no test score. There's no test score for dance. And there's also like I don't know if a kid does dance. Like as a classroom teacher, I have no knowledge of that. So those literally have to come from a teacher. Like there has to be an art teacher or a parent. Like I've had parents refer their student before for different things. Like, but there has to be a teacher say, "Hey, I have this kid who's really creative. What can we do?" So it had like, because I don't see all those kids, and if the test score isn't there, I have nothing to screen. So those have to come from a parent or a teacher referral first before I can do anything with it. And then it kind of follows the same process where we a teacher who has experience with that student in that particular area will fill out a checklist. We have to gather evidence. So for a student to be considered art, we have art samples. And for a student to be considered dance, we usually have videos. For a student to be considered leadership, I'll often have them write like a resume or get letters of recommendation. So, and then it goes through the same process where we have a committee focused on, like we have a committee of art teachers in the district that look at all of our art referrals. We have a committee of local dance professionals. And I think there's someone on our dance committee from like the Louisville Ballet that like screens the videos for our GT dance referrals. And then it follows like pretty much the same process. The difference there is we have so many less of those students because it has to be initiated outside of the GT department.
Yeah. It's like that proactive thing that is.
And it's hard. And we do get those students. Like I do have several of those students, but it's hard to get those things. And then my last bit that you all asked me to talk about would be my recommendations for how this should happen. And I think how do I I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the process that we currently use. I do often wish we have more of a holistic approach. Like I appreciate that we can use like the local norms, and I appreciate that there's special considerations that we can use for specific circumstances, but I think a lot of the times we can look at we should be looking at much more of the bigger picture, and that we rely heavily on test scores. I mean, out of necessity, because how else are we going to know? But I very much wish there was a better way to do it that looked at the kid as a whole. And then, so my entire dissertation was about this identification process and the impact it has on especially like Black and Hispanic students. Especially as it pertains to
warning, DEI incoming.
DEI incoming. It's my whole shtick.
How dare you?
How dare I? I wrote in hundreds of pages that are all DEI. I should probably just go set fire to my dissertation tomorrow.
You should.
Anyways, but the biggest problem that I ran into in my research was that a heavy, like 2/3 of our data points come from teachers. And so if teachers don't have the training to identify how giftedness is presented in Black and Hispanic and other minority students, they might not perceive that those students are gifted and score them high enough on the checklist, or write strong enough like anecdotal notes about that student to even qualify them to make it to the committee meeting part. And so one of my big conclusions that I wrote in my dissertation was about the necessity for teacher training regarding what giftedness looks like in students from different backgrounds. And part of the problem is that when you look at the demographics of teachers, it's a lot of white. And so you come into it with your own preconceived notions of here's what giftedness should look like. These kids should be smart. These kids should raise their hand. They have high test scores. And that isn't necessarily the case in every background. And so it's hard to be able to pinpoint what giftedness might look like when you just don't know. So there's my shtick.
Also was
thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Really interesting when you were like going through your research part of your dissertation with the like surveys that you gave the different teachers in the district and
interviews. I did interviews. I didn't do surveys.
Oh well.
I'm sorry. I know you don't understand a lot about qualitative research, but a survey and an interview are two very different things.
Concrete evidence. Okay.
Well, no, he did a quantitative study.
Concrete evidence is the science guy that couldn't prove anything right to us. It was just all theory.
He did a quantitative study. Exists. I did a qualitative study. So they're different. It's a different purpose.
I know it's a really high bar, Kelsey. That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God.
No, but but just like the demographics in the backgrounds of and the trends of the responses.
Mm-hmm.
And go read Kayla's dissertation for more information on that.
Basically, what the big takeaway was is that the older a teacher was, the less likely they were to identify a minority student for gifted services.
Wow. You don't say.
I mean, we're all shocked, but I have actual research to
well, and there's a lot of trends of like...
That's wild, actually. Mm-hmm. I love that you had to do the research to get to that, to like prove it.
And the like trends of like, oh, I don't even think about making sure that it's equitable because, you know.
You get a lot of the, I don't see color.
Yeah.
I'm like, well.
Oh, God.
Maybe you should. And that was kind of my takeaway is like, we need to be identifying with that in mind.
Yeah.
Like, we need to not be like, I'm gonna approach this the same for every kid. Like, you can't. I had a student a couple years ago who, like, kept... Like, I knew this kid's background, which was helpful for me to be able to advocate for them. But they kept having a qualifying score, but I couldn't get a qualifying teacher checklist on them. And so finally I had the conversation like, hey, this student has qualified based on their test score 3 separate times and just not on the checklist. And the teacher, you know, raised some concerns about, you know, classroom performance and how they were doing compared to their peers. But then, like, and I knew this about this kid, like, hey, do you know that this... Like, I don't want to get into the details, but like, do you know the home life of this student and what they have going on outside of school? And so if it's one of those things where like you have to consider that because it was a very complicated home life.
Which
right, and that, of course,
and those types of backgrounds disproportionately occur in you know, minority demographics. So, which was your whole point. So.
My whole point.
All right, cool.
That was a fun one. I mean, maybe not fun, but
that was fun.
I would definitely like to dig into specifically like your equitable stuff, like more specifically onto your dissertation at some point in the future. This is a good
little sliver of it.
Yep.
Bonus points. Jake has decided with our tax returns that I finally get to frame my diploma.
You could have done that a long time ago.
I could have done it a long time ago, but when we did our taxes, I'm like, hey, I just have one request that I would like to spend a little bit of our tax money on. And he's like, okay, what? I'm like, I really want to frame my diploma finally. And he's like, absolutely. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I thought you were going to say something like he's decided that you're going back to college to get another doctorate.
How many times in the past year since I finished this one have we had this conversation, though?
3 or 4 times.
Hey, well, with all of the student loan stuff going on, you might as well.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? I mean, I can't decide. I can't decide if I want to be a doctor or a lawyer next. So here we are.
Cool. Thanks, Kayla. On to the next subject. We are talking about space travel, which I have so many questions now after Katy Perry fake went to the moon. And I know we like kind of... Not to the moon. Why do I keep on getting mixed up? She didn't go to the moon.
Can we talk for a brief second about all like the memes about like, if Katy Perry's an astronaut, now I'm a gynecologist.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many funny ones. like the videos of like Jeff Bezos face planting, or like when the door opened up from the inside. I mean, there's so many. Now, like, Jake, do you think that they actually went to space?
Yes, of course they went to space.
We're not getting into like moon landing conspiracy theories on this podcast, are we? Because that's a whole other thing.
I didn't even think about that.
But like, how'd the door open so easily?
What do you mean? Well, how did the door open? I don't even know what you're talking about.
There's like videos of them before they like pop the door open from the outside, opening the door from the inside. And then they shut it really fast.
I don't know why you'd think they didn't go to space. They did about the easiest quote thing you can do. It's just go. I said this last time. Just strap a bunch of fuel up and point the rocket upwards.
Point the penis.
I was gonna say point the penis to the sky.
Presumably, there's a lot of eyewitnesses of the rocket launching. So,
presumably, I just had to. God, what is that dude's name again?
Which one?
Jeff Bezos.
No, the dude that like jumped out of his little craft and.
Oh, Felix Baumgartner.
Felix Baumgartner. They just basically did like half a step more than him.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
his was way crazier than theirs.
His was way cooler. I remember watching that live.
Yeah.
I guess I'll believe it because Jake says so. But, I mean, there's just so many things. Like the whole, like her, Katy Perry bringing a daisy up into space, and they're saying that, like, technically it should have, like, wilted being up in space.
No.
Jake has spoken.
I don't know who's telling you this. This is some, like, flat earth type, like, it should have done all this, Like, oh my gosh. Don't believe don't believe everything you see on TikTok.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, well anyways, so we're gonna get into space travel.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of stuff that we can cover. I don't know if we'll get to all of it, but I guess I was just gonna start by talking a little bit about like how you get into orbit as a rocket. So like we already just talked about that, about how like it's a lot more complicated than just pointing your rocket upwards and like.
Is it more complicated than just pointing
it is
your
more complicated
rocket upwards?
Than that.
Wow.
But like,
I have a question already. God, Kelsey.
Okay, go ahead.
So in Hidden Figures.
Yeah.
Okay, see, this is relevant.
Mm-hmm.
When they're trying to figure out the math for like getting him into orbit, and they talk about several times about a no-go point.
Okay.
What does that mean? Does that have to do with like getting him into the orbit? Because it was mathematical in nature.
I don't know the context of what that was said, so I don't actually know the answer to that one. My guess is, sorry, you're gonna have to tell me what it was in the movie. Like, were they just trying to figure out?
I don't remember, and now I can't look it up because you have my phone for the video.
Okay.
Is this phone available?
No.
Cool.
I mean,
I'm assuming that there's just like a calculation that they calculate in 7,000 different things, right? That tell them if it's a go or a no-go.
To me, that sounds more weather-based, but
no, it wasn't weather-based.
Okay. Yeah. So like you've seen a lot of like rocket launches and stuff like that, but like they send the rocket up, they kind of put it at an angle to get up out into outer space. And then we also talked about this before, just how when you're in orbit, you're not actually like, there's not zero gravity. It's just that you're going so fast that when you would go off in a straight line, like perpendicular to, or I guess parallel with like the Earth's surface, that you get pulled back by gravity, and then you just end up kind of falling past the edge of the Earth, and that just keeps happening as you go around and around. Did you understand that from before?
Yep.
Yeah.
So a lot of it has to do with the speed that you're going. So I guess my first question was, how much fuel does it take to reach orbit? Because that's an interesting figure.
What are we measuring in, like,
and
tons,
this is in
gallons?
kilograms.
Kilograms, okay.
So not the way that we figure out the mass of the Earth.
Oh, God. Back to that again.
Kilograms of fuel. How do kilograms transfer to gallons?
Well, kilograms, it's an easier transfer to pounds. It's almost
2 pounds per
yeah,
kilogram.
it's so double it to equal
Okay.
pounds.
Yeah.
I
I'm
have
gonna
no
say
idea.
7.
A
I'm gonna say
1,000.
7,000.
7,000 kilograms.
Yes. Kelsey said 1,000.
That's way, way more.
Then 7,000.
Mm-hmm.
How does that even
20
fit?
20,000.
You've seen the rockets, right? Okay, what do you know about like how rockets look like when they're on the launch pad?
This feels like a trick question.
Uh,
Well, you've got several parts that like fall away as they go up. So you've got like the ship,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got like you
Oh,
usually
so
have,
are those like fuel tanks that are
Yeah,
falling
those
away
are
as they're
purely
used?
fuel tanks.
aren't those the two like
Yeah,
Ooh.
50,000 kilograms?
keep going.
Fuck.
What? 75,000.
Keep going.
200,000 kilograms.
Keep
Oh.
going.
What the hell?
What?
500,000 kilograms.
kilograms.
Kelsey just got it.
A
It's 1
million?
million.
Oh!
1 million kilograms
I got another
of
thing right.
fuel that it takes to reach orbit.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
How
It's
much
a
does that
lot.
cost?
Well,
Ooh.
actually, interesting. I did read a little bit about that. It's actually a lot. I wouldn't say cheaper, but like
I
comparative.
thought you were just going to stop there. It's actually a lot.
It's yeah. Oh, it's very expensive. No, like compared to
$2
like
million.
actually, I think it's cheaper than that.
Shut up.
Yeah, it's like
Like $1
one of
a
the
kilogram.
cheaper parts of the whole assembly of a rocket.
That's wild.
Just because it costs so much for the construction of the actual components, the fuel ends up being cheaper. It was something like
Huh.
$500,000 in fuel
Wow.
or something like that. But I mean, the rocket
Wow.
itself is
Okay,
like
hang
$50
on.
billion or something.
Hang on. Can
like
we
that.
back up to can we convert this whole thing into like dollars per gallon? I want to know what's cheaper, the shit that I put in my car or jet fuel.
It would be called rocket fuel.
Fuck off.
It's actually rocket propellant.
Oh my god. My question remains the same. My question is unchanged.
Although they use basically the same. They use well. There's a whole thing about.
I'm going to need you, this is your homework. I'm going to need you to figure it out. What's cheaper in terms of like dollars per gallon?
Okay.
Okay. Moving on.
Are you gonna boost your Honda with some jet fuel or what?
I'm thinking about
with
it.
Some rocket propellant.
I'm thinking about it.
Well, they actually use two different fuels. They use
Oh my god.
they use just like gas like you do in a car, but like
Okay.
a highly refined version, i.e. jet fuel. But then the other thing is liquid oxygen.
How much does liquid oxygen cost?
What
What is the ratio of jet fuel to
you're asking
oxygen?
very specific questions. that
I
don't
listen, I'm
for
trying to
every
build a
single
rocket in the base.
answer.
Now that the garage is cleaned out, I'm building a rocket.
I think liquid oxygen's a lot more expensive than the like jet fuel, just because like you have to keep it liquid because it's liquid oxygen.
Oh, is that how liquid works?
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Well, how would you get into liquid, Kayla?
I mean,
Because it seems so obvious.
I'm not saying it's obvious. You're just like, because liquid oxygen is a liquid and it has to stay a liquid because it's
Yeah.
liquid oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
You said liquid a lot of times. I get that it's a liquid. Don't you have to keep it like, have to be super cold to be liquid?
Yes, very cold.
Okay, cool. Look at me. Okay.
Yeah. So they have to keep it at negative 190 something or something like that, just to
then
keep
what
it as a
happens-
yeah,
liquid.
nobody's
Okay.
skinny dipping in that.
Do you
What
remember?
happens then? What happens then when they like they ignite for like launching?
Mhm.
What the fuck happens to the liquid oxygen then?
They burn it.
Okay.
That's how it gets up into the sky.
Yeah. Rocket go boom. That's the whole idea.
That's the whole plan.
And they fuel it so that they're going to use all of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still want to know how much it costs.
I get what you're saying.
Okay.
There's another thing that about how much fuel the International Space Station uses
Uh-huh.
every year, because even though the
Fish ain't no one want to go there anymore.
the space station is in orbit, it's actually like slowly getting pulled down constantly.
So do they
so-
have to like
Yeah.
back up periodically?
Yep.
Cool.
I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't know, that the space station actually has to keep itself in orbit because it's falling. Like I said, like it's basically falling. It just misses the Earth. That's how people kind of frame it a lot, is that you're missing the Earth when you're falling. But basically your orbit gets smaller and smaller
And then they
as
just
you go around over
kind
time.
of relaunch briefly.
So they just do a burn to change the radius of the orbit
How do they get fuel up to them?
with other rockets that go and dock there. I didn't look it up how much it stores. I don't know if that's like something that they're doing constantly or if they have huge tanks. But I mean, it was still on the order of like 9,000 kilograms every year just used in keeping the space station in orbit.
I mean, that's substantially less than trying
So-
to get into orbit.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. So like once you get into orbit, that's the hardest part just in terms of like material and cost and danger. I
Is
guess.
that the hardest part in terms of like the math and physics side of it? Like the getting off the fucking ground?
I wouldn't say so, because what I was about to get to next is the way that you move between different bodies in the solar system is really complicated, because you have to, because all of the other things are moving at the same time and you're moving. So you have like the Earth, which is moving through the solar
Are
system.
we referring to like planets and moons by all the
So
other
I'm going
things?
to talk about the moon
Okay, cool.
mostly.
Kelsey's favorite.
Yeah. So
favorite
when-
solar object.
Katy Perry's
when
been
Katy
there,
Perry
so-
went to the moon, this is how it was done. So you have like the spaceship or whatever is orbiting the Earth, and then you have the moon that's also moving around the Earth. So you have like a moving target when you're talking about getting from the Earth to the moon. Like you can't just, point your rocket straight up at the moon.
Exactly what you do. You wait till it's like nighttime.
Yeah,
You wait till there's a full
Wait till
moon.
there's a full
crucially it has to
and
be
you
a
really
full
go
moon.
for it
Yeah.
You wait till it's a full moon,
At
and then
nighttime.
it's nighttime, and then you just pedal to the metal and get the fuck up there.
and rocket go boom.
And rocket go boom.
Feels like an episode of Dexter's Lab.
But the whole trick to changing, like moving between the different bodies, is basically doing a burn, which when I say burn, that's like, using your fuel to change your speed in some manner.
The proverbial gas pedal of the rocket ship.
Yeah.
Got it.
But also you do a burn in the opposite direction to change it's all about managing,
Throwing it in reverse.
all about managing your orbit radius, essentially, if you want to think about that. So like when you're orbiting the Earth and you burn, you're just changing the orbit or the radius of your orbit. So to get to the moon, you have to be on the opposite side of the Earth from where the moon is, first of all, or where the moon is going to be, actually.
So don't you okay, follow me on this. I'm not talking like landing on the moon, but in order to maybe I'm making no sense. I might be making no sense. Isn't it like a figure eight situation though? Where you end up going around, you're using the gravity to.
I was getting to that. Yeah,
Oh!
I was actually.
Kayla.
But look at me
I have some
sciencing,
interesting
Kelsey.
information about that. But the point being that you are setting up so that when you burn, you're not really changing your position, because these are on a massive scale. So when you burn, you're not changing your position much. You're just changing your speed, which means that when you are coasting, the radius of your orbit is going to be bigger. So your distance away from the Earth doesn't change when you burn, but the other side of your orbit is going to be further away from the Earth. So you have to actually burn when you're on the opposite side of the Earth from where the moon is going to be when you coast around to the other side of your orbit, if that makes sense.
So that's a big old calculation.
Yeah, that's one of them.
So do they have a log of all of that information when they take off? Like when you get to this point, you need to burn for X long in order to they have all that in their to-do list.
Yeah. I mean, it's all done with computers nowadays. But
circa
and most of
1960
most of
whatever.
forever. I think they still use computers back then to do it.
Okay.
Although
to what
the
extent?
astronauts were trained to do it manually, I think.
Okay.
And there's a lot of really good animations you can find online.
So then what are the astronauts even for if the rocket ship is doing everything itself? Like, why are they even
there really isn't much of a point now.
Seriously? I was just being an asshole.
I mean, I said it last week, like, you press a button and you arrive at the space station now because they're just that good at the automation and everything.
That's wild.
But can we talk about like how, like why, I mean, just recently a rocket blew up while it was testing. Like why does that still happen if it's so advanced and sure?
There's millions of components to these things. So they have to test them over and over again and try to find the weak points.
I was like, what was it? The Challenger with the O-rings?
Yeah.
There were O-rings in 2 spots on the fuel tanks.
I don't know the specific details, but yeah.
I definitely watched a documentary, but it's been a hot minute. The O-rings were like old and worn out and hadn't been replaced. And so because of like the temperature that the rocket was prior to takeoff, they like basically broke down so that when the rocket took off, like jet fuel was actually like leaking out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da, explosion.
Oh.
Human error.
Yeah. So I guess like, I mean, astronauts could just not go up now and then people aren't going to get killed. But I mean, we're going to why don't
they do,
so
they like manufacture, I'm guessing on this, but just kind of educated guess, like you manufacture a piece, you make sure that your manufacture process doesn't, you're reducing the tolerance of the difference between the pieces that you manufacture. Then you construct your rocket and then you test it. And if it blows up, you go, okay, what piece caused the thing to blow up?
What make rocket go
boom?
To
go boom. Bad boom in this case. And then you go back to your construction pipeline, essentially, and say, like, you need to lower the tolerances on this piece or change they do that over and over and over and over again until they have a repeatable rocket that only does good boom. And then that's when you start thinking about putting people onto it.
I see. So then also like, okay, so obviously like we've sent people to the moon, like people have walked on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that not a
theoretically
thing? Just because it's so hard to get there?
Mostly money. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the difficulty of it. Because we sent...
surely Jeff Bezos could afford to go there, so let's send him.
Can we leave him there? Asking for a friend.
I mean, obviously it's extremely hard, but it's very... It's kind of like, what do we get out of it if we do it? Is it worth the money to do it? It's extremely expensive. It's difficult. It's dangerous. It's all these things. I mean, that's kind of the next phase that they're trying to go towards, is to make it easier and safer so that we can do it more regularly.
Is there plans for us to live on the moon?
There's lots of things that have been sent to the moon, just not people.
Are there plans for us to live on the moon?
Yes.
Do you want to sign up to live on the moon?
There's like a moon base plan that's in the works over the next 20 years.
Are you signing up to live on the moon?
I haven't, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't have the webpage open to apply for it at any other point. Just to see what they were asking for.
I have a confession.
They probably need a scientist.
I would like to tell you that if you are going to live on the moon, I love you, but you're going to live on the moon
I didn't
alone.
apply for it.
Okay.
I was more
I'll
interested in
there.
like what the application looked like and what they were looking
You
for.
all need to stop making plans to leave me with all the children.
Oh.
Why?
Because I have no intention of being a single mom.
Okay.
Me either, but look at me here.
Well,
Let's get back to the actual
that's a whole other
explanation
podcast, Kelsey.
So like I was saying, you burn on the opposite side of the Earth to raise the apogee, essentially the far side of your orbit radius, and then you essentially like meet the moon at the end of your new orbit that you've created with your burn. And when you get to the moon, you have to burn in the opposite direction to slow down so that your orbit gets changed and then you get caught by the moon, essentially, if that makes sense. But
okay.
what you were saying, Kayla, is interesting, is that there's a specific burn and like orbit setup that you can do where you don't have to burn at all, and you do kind of a figure eight around the moon and come back to the Earth and get caught by the Earth again.
Like slingshot it.
Not really a slingshot.
Okay.
They call it a free return.
Ooh.
But it's essentially you burn once at the Earth, and if you don't do anything at all, your spaceship will go out to the moon, go around the moon,
Catch the moon's
and get sent back to Earth
gravitational
and get
pull.
caught by Earth in the Earth orbit, which is
So
pretty
cool.
awesome.
How did they figure that out? Was that like accidental, or did they were they like, I think this should work, let's try it? Or was there actual like, this is mathematically going to work?
The mathematics they knew worked for sure.
Okay.
I don't have all of the history written down, but I did see that the Apollo missions 8, 10, and 11, which visited the moon,
Mm-hmm.
they all, and also Apollo 11, that's the one
Mm-hmm.
where we landed on the moon, the
Right.
first one. All of those had done their burn to do a free return.
Okay.
Like they had planned
I feel like there's a
ahead
but.
of time that we're going to burn and we're going to set this up to be a free return for the purpose that if there was anything that went wrong, they would come back to Earth.
Okay.
Now, because NASA is incredible at what they do, like all 3 of those missions were successful, and so they did end up burning at the moon to stop there. So like I had the note that all 3 of those didn't use their free return. They all stopped at the moon. They changed their orbit because they had been successful. But it's interesting that like is something that you can do to get back to Earth.
So do they use that as like a backup plan?
Yeah, that
situation?
was
Okay.
that was like a contingency. Was if anything went wrong. I mean, think about Apollo 13, where they had
Shit went way wrong.
yeah, and so they were like, well, we can't continue the mission. We're just trying to get back home. That would have been what they did.
A circumstance where they
trying to
use
get back
that
home.
free return. Cool.
So
It's really cool.
that's the main thing I want. Like main thing I wanted to say about how we travel, like in around the Earth's orbit and between the moon and stuff. But you can imagine, like it's kind of the same idea going to the other bodies, and you can use slingshots. You mentioned. I know that there's like probes and other satellites that we use slingshots around planets to get them to give them a speed boost to get out to. So that those traces of their path are really interesting to see animations of, and the math is really crazy. But all of it has to do with like burning at specific times and changing the radius of your orbit so that you arrive at the spot where the thing that you're trying to hit is going to be when you get there.
All of this is just making me think of Armageddon.
Yeah.
Yep.
They did a slingshot around
yeah,
the moon.
you loved Armageddon.
I did love Armageddon. I don't love Jake's rendition of Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Yeah, it's not good, but I like singing it.
I know you do. It's hilarious. I enjoy it every time.
But I'm a little bit behind, but I want to press through some of this stuff. Effects on the body is the next thing I want.
Ooh,
to get to.
yes.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just going to kind of spit out a bunch of information here, but like apparently a lot of people, when they get to space, there's an organ called the vestibular organ. I don't know if you know, Kayla. I know you know a lot of medical stuff. Essentially, that gets reprogrammed because it doesn't understand what's happening when
Makes
you're
sense.
in low gravity situations, and a lot of people will get headaches, nausea, vomiting, just as a consequence of that organ not understanding what's happening. And then the opposite thing happens when they get back. So like they'll go to space. It'll happen for like a couple hours when they're acclimating. Then once they get back, it happens again when they get back. So it's a double whammy. My second question is, So shortly after arriving in space, so maybe after they get this organ kind of adjusts, but before they've been there a long time, where does the blood accumulate in your body?
Ooh. In your feet.
I was gonna say in your back.
In your back? The answer is like the upper body for the most part. And that's actually because when you're on Earth, it's something that you probably don't think about, and it's just happening so automatically. But because of gravity, our blood on Earth is always kind of getting pulled downwards in our body. But
oh yeah,
obviously,
dumb answer, Kelsey.
Obviously,
fucking idiot.
Obviously, the blood is not like accumulating in our lower extremities. Like right, obviously.
Well, at least for me and Kelsey.
Yeah. Okay. But
he just rolled his eyes at me so hard.
But what's happening on Earth is that our hearts and like brain programming for our heart is that, like is compensating for that automatically without us really thinking about it. So actually your vessels and your blood pumps harder to push blood upwards to go against gravity. So when you get into space, your heart is still trying to do what it always does. And so you actually get an accumulation of like blood and fluids in your upper body because your blood doesn't need to pump as strong anymore. And
but it's still doing it.
It's still doing it the way it was. And so you get an excess amount of like blood flowing to your upper body for a while.
So could that like send people into like cardiac arrest or anything like that?
Ooh, good question.
I mean, I'm sure for a specific person who doesn't have a good heart, possibly. But if you ever watch videos of people who have just arrived in space, sometimes you'll notice that they're congested and stuff like that, and their faces are kind of bloated a little bit. And it's that, and it does eventually like get a little better.
That explains the Katy Perry video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Girl, she was in space for like 13
seconds. Yeah, not
seconds.
long enough for this to really happen. But then it's it's all the opposite thing when they get back. Then once they're in space, then their heart doesn't pump as strong because it thinks it doesn't need to. Then you come back to Earth, and now they get lightheaded all the time because until their body's like, oh, I need to compensate for the blood being pulled downwards from gravity. So
funny story, like unintentionally lined up that in my science class that I'm teaching right now, we use like the TED Ed animated videos for bell work, where we'll watch like the 5-minute video and then answer questions. And our video today was, are you more likely to freeze or explode in space? And it was talking about the effects of space on the body. Specific part of it at the end was talking about how like people who return from space are prone to passing out easily.
There you go. That's why.
Yeah, look at pulling it all together.
Also, there's a lot of consequences on like muscle and bone structure in space. I don't need to get super into that, but like it's again another thing where you're like constantly quote exercising every day to fight against gravity when you're on Earth, and then when you're in space, you're not fighting against that anymore, and so you just don't have that natural like
so what's the
minus
average,
sleeping 18 hours of like moving your muscles against gravity every day.
What's the average percentage of like muscle loss?
I don't have that
from someone who's spent time in space.
They do like NASA requires them to do 2 hours of exercise every single day, 2 full hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of studies about exercise and stuff like that.
Is that just like running in space? Like
they've got a couple special equipment. No, actually, I saw one that is basically like somebody wore like a belt, and then it was like attached to a chain that pulled them down, and they were like onto a treadmill, so they'd have to push up to stay on it because the chains are pulling them down. They've got a whole bunch of like specialized equipment.
That's awesome.
For exercise and stuff like that.
So how about like that female astronaut that just came back? I don't know her name. She like massively grayed.
Yeah.
her hair
Mhm.
like got like really
Mhm.
gray over the time that she was gone, and she was there for how long? 9
Well,
months or
Kelsey, what
so.
would your hair look like if you didn't dye it for 9 months?
True. Touche.
That could be the simple
Touche.
explanation. Yeah.
My hair looks like that after 3 weeks. So
Yeah.
I haven't dyed my hair in a year and a half.
I mean, I saw a picture of a guy who spent like more than I should have looked it up. I wonder if I think it was it only 9 months? There was somebody recently who stayed more than a year at the space station. And that
Hard
was like
pass.
the longest that anybody has stayed in space at one time. And the guy looked pretty awesome actually. Like he didn't look anywhere like those other astronauts when they got back. But
Well, think about it. I feel like there's
Wow.
got to be some kind of study about the like mental and emotional toll that took on them with,
Yeah,
oh
that's
God,
what
are we
I
going to
think,
get
yeah.
back? Like surely
because
to
that
goodness.
was their spaceship getting sent there and being like, spaceship's broken and we don't know when we can send one to get you.
Right.
So,
yeah. I mean, what would happen if they could never get rescued? They would just stay up there. Do our bodies age the same up there? Like you die eventually, right?
well, yeah, I mean, they could survive probably as long as we could provide resources to them.
Would they like would they
Would they live like past 100
right? That's
years?
what I'm saying. Like, would they die more prematurely than if they were on Earth, or live longer?
Hard to say. We just don't know because nobody's done that.
Well, Jake, I
But I
found
think-
a job for you. No, just kidding. Please
I
don't.
mean,
Please
I
don't leave
think
me.
that there's, all these health risks. Like, I think the muscle and bone density is probably the worst one, just in terms of like not being able to move anymore. But yeah, we just don't really know about really like very, very long term of those environments.
Wow.
You mentioned plants. They actually grow plants on the International Space Station. They've got
I
like
did
Oh,
know
they've got
that.
like whole gardens there. So yeah, anything about like, oh, if you took a plant into space for 30 seconds, it would wilt. That's not true. They grow plants at the space station, and they eat the plants that they grow and
Wow.
stuff like that. Like they actually make their own food.
Listen, I
That's
can't
cool.
garden in my own damn backyard, and these jokers have a whole ass garden in space. That's cool.
But they do generally grow taller because they don't have gravity pulling them down.
The plants or the people?
The plants. Well, I mean, also people. I do
Probably
know
both.
people's like your spine decompresses, so you actually get taller when you go to
See,
space.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was asking, Kelsey. Fucking
Wow.
laughing at me.
So I looked it up. The longest stint was 437 days by Valery Polyakov, and he was a Russian cosmonaut.
A little over a
What's
year.
the difference between a cosmonaut and a astronaut?
They're one's
It's
from
what
Russia,
country they
one's
come
from the
from.
United States.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So moving on from body effects. Well, I guess not really, but not just in terms. That was gravity effects on health. Now I want to talk about radiation as kind of the last thing.
Ooh.
Because you don't have any atmosphere.
To protect you from the sun.
Right. So what I didn't know, I learned this myself researching this, is that radiation is actually not a big problem at the International Space Station at that orbit level.
Okay.
And that's because the magnetic field of the Earth still
Protects
protects
them.
you. Yeah.
Hmm.
So they do have an elevated amount of radiation exposure because there's still no atmosphere, but it's not nearly as bad as like once you get out of the main influence of the magnetic field.
Is it like a to a level that could actually have impacts? Like an impactful level of radiation?
Yes, slightly. So I wrote down here that like a 6-month trip, like staying at the ISS, is between 50 and 100 millisieverts. That's the measurement that they use for radiation. And they say that your like risk for cancer gets elevated at 50 millisieverts.
Okay.
So you do have
wow.
a slightly elevated risk of cancer, but like they just hit the threshold on a 6-month stay.
So if they're there like less than 6 months, is it like a negligible
Yeah,
impact?
it's, I mean, it's all the more and more and more that you get,
Right.
it compounds your risk. But it's just kind of like once you hit that 50 mark, essentially is when you're considered like a higher risk than a normal person. I will say my
Is
last
NASA paying for these astronauts' health care for the rest of their lives now?
who knows?
Like
No,
every
Doge is cutting that.
dime. Oh, I'm sure.
Um,
Okay.
Uh,
Nope.
So, but then just for context, on Earth, our exposure to radiation is 8.2 microsieverts per day. So that's like 1,000, 2,000 times less
Wow.
per day compared to 6 months. But
Yeah.
so 6
Wow.
months is like 200. Yeah, 10 times as much, I guess.
Okay.
That's just at the ISS.
How much radiation does a nuclear bomb leave?
I don't have that
Oof,
written down.
God.
A lot.
Shit ton.
But so I was gonna ask, like, how much? So once you get out of the magnetic influence from the Earth, how much radiation do they expect on, like, a round trip to Mars for somebody?
Oh my God. What is it when you're at the ISS?
50 millisieverts
In 6 months.
in 6 months.
Okay. How long does it take to get around Mars and back?
I think like 18 months.
Holy shit.
I'm gonna say 1,000.
You'll see.
Okay. I'm gonna say like 150,000.
I like your thinking in terms of the other questions we've had, but Kayla was actually spot on. It's about
Ayo.
1,000
Oh shit.
millisieverts.
Wow. Do you want a trophy, Kayla?
Yes, please.
So, 10 times as much as just staying at the ISS. But then you are more well into that range.
Actually,
You have a
so
trophy.
if
I
staying
know.
at the ISS is 50 to 100,
Oh.
and we go on the maximum, and that's for 6 months. So 100 times 3 to get to the 18 months. It's actually only like 3 times as much.
You're done. You're not a scientist.
Math.
I just checked my math and I'm right. So, um,
Also, you would assume that like Mars would have more radiation than, right?
well, I mean,
I'm wrong.
yes, but by virtue of it's more like that intermediate time between the planets when you're outside of the magnetic.
When you're not
Protection.
being protected,
Oh,
you
I
got to spend
see.
more
Yeah.
time to get to Mars.
Now, Mars
Mhm.
does have a very weak atmosphere. I think there might be a very weak magnetic field around it, but I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, I mean, you just aren't protected once you leave Earth's influence there. That's why. But it is further away from the sun, so you also don't get as much like energy per meter on your body per square meter.
Sure.
So, all right, that's my topic.
Cool.
Do you have
So
any
what
other
is-
I guess there's
Interesting.
more questions if you have any, but
I have so many
But I got through.
questions.
Kayla and I could ask questions for days.
I know.
Days. Listen, I have so many questions. So, what are the possibilities? Oh my God, I have so many questions. I can't even put them all in order. So, humans to Mars is 18 months. Let's start there. Is it possible for humans to go any further than Mars to any of the other planets? Or is that like the only potential planet that humans could visit?
Well,
Further in either direction.
it's once you go past Mars, you've got a bunch of gas giants. So the planets. you
I'm
can't
not
go
saying
into.
realistically in terms
mean-
of being on them. I'm saying
Oh.
in terms of like ability to
Distance.
get there.
I mean, with enough time, we can get anywhere. So I don't know exactly what your question is, because like we've sent probes to every place in the solar system essentially at this point. It'd just be a matter of people willing to stay on a ship for however long. And it gets more and more infeasible the longer you're there, because they have to like build things that recycle air and waste and water, and they have to stock it with food or give them means to regenerate their food source, all this stuff.
Next question. Is the James Webb Space Telescope like setting up camp somewhere, or is it still just fucking moving?
It's in a very specific spot.
It's in a very specific spot. Where
Yes.
where is it? Is it in its
L2
final?
Lagrangian point in between the Earth and Mars.
Great. Cool.
Moving on.
That was helpful.
Wait, I have a question.
Do you want me to explain what I just said?
No.
I kind of actually already know everything there needs to know about that. So
No, hang on. Follow up is that it's like intended final resting place where
Yes.
it was going to stay. Okay. Next and last question, then Kelsey can go. Do we know where like the Voyager satellite, whatever, is now?
Do we know? Based on math, yes.
Where is it? Because that went out
very,
a
very
hot minute ago.
Yeah, it's the furthest object from that we've man-made object from Earth. I mean, I don't have it written down. I don't know, but it's like I think they've said like by definition it is now out of our solar system.
That's insane.
Which is crazy because our solar
Holy
system
shit.
is a lot bigger than even people imagine it.
Do we still get like pings back from it or no? Like it's just a
Um,
matter of like, hey, we know that mathematically this is where it should
It
be.
very recently went out.
Went out?
Yeah, but I
Like
thought I
out
read
of
that it came
distance or
back.
out of battery? Like
Well, out of battery.
okay.
They basically were like, yeah, we stopped receiving data from it. But I thought I read that they
Wow.
suddenly got it back somehow. So I don't, it's probably one of those things where it's like battery died and then it charged just enough to boot back up and send a message and
Right.
die or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that's 50 years it's been going.
Right.
Just outwards.
Holy cow! Wow.
Because like Pluto isn't the edge of the solar system.
No, I know.
It's like way, way, way bigger than just like the orbit of Pluto around the. Yeah.
Cool. Those were my questions. Kelsey, you're up.
Okay. You guys are gonna hate me for this one.
Oh shit.
Can you, for all the laymen people here, what is it called? Lays people, give a from the sun layout of the planets.
Wait, like in order?
Yeah.
Do you not know the order of the planets, Kelsey?
I don't.
From the sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto.
Except Pluto's
Okay,
not a
say it
planet.
again.
Shut your mouth.
Say it one more time.
Mercury,
Okay.
Venus,
Okay.
Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. So, do we not go to the planets that are closer to the sun because it's too hot?
You mean people or probes?
Yes.
I
We've sent
mean,
stuff
people.
to both. People.
We have. Okay.
Yeah. So Venus is like constant acid rain and volcanoes. So even our equipment doesn't survive there.
So, like,
That's not.
Oh.
a great vacation spot.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then Mercury is pretty much it's either too hot or it's too cold, because one side is facing the sun and the other side is always away from the sun. So
Okay. So Mars is the next best thing. That's like
Mhm.
the
yeah,
next.
I mean,
And then there's like the gap between Mars and Jupiter is insane. Yes.
well, you're talking about bigger and bigger circles. So yeah, there's also an asteroid belt in
asteroid
between
belt,
Mars
yeah.
and Jupiter.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then other completely unrelated question. In these space shuttles or stations or whatever, when they go to the bathroom, what happens to all of their waste? Do they flush it like an airplane toilet and it just goes out into space?
This is a good question.
I know that they have recycling systems of some sort for some of it. I don't know a lot of details on it, but I know for sure
I have a
that
follow-up question.
on the space station, they're recycling the liquid
Okay.
If
How do you like recycle somebody's shit?
the same way we do on Earth.
compost, they use it for their plants. That was a guess. I have no idea.
Right.
Here's a question. If you're going to the bathroom on a space station where there is less gravity, how do you make sure your shit goes down and doesn't come back up
I
and hit you in
have
the
no
butt?
idea.
Like, you're sitting on a toilet taking a shit. Will the turd, like, come back and, like,
I don't want
poke
to
you in
talk
the
about it, and I don't know.
That's your topic for next week.
I refuse.
Jake would never. Jake is a little bit of a prude. We love him.
Okay, I have one more question that our prude.
Okay, we're way long, but let's go.
I don't care. I'm so.
That's okay. This is great conversation. Has there ever been a history of people having sex on one of these space stations?
Great question.
I know there is a no sex rule.
Okay, that means nothing. Has everyone
That's
always followed
about
the
as
rule?
far as I know. I don't know if anybody has or not.
For science, we need to know for science, Jake.
I mean, I'm really good at following the no sex rules, so probably the same there on the space station.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a relatively small group of people that have ever even been there. So I don't know if it has or hasn't happened, but I know that they have a rule about it.
But I need it to happen for science.
Why is there a rule against it?
What would happen if someone got pregnant on the space station?
I think that's part of the risk, is they have no idea what that would do developmentally.
So I would be
that's how aliens are born.
So I would be the perfect candidate for trying out having sex on the space station.
I suppose.
I'm intrigued.
Are these the types of questions you thought you were going to get from us? Jake's
thought maybe no, expected probably.
Surprised? Not at all.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was really eye-opening. I loved it. What are we talking about next week, guys?
Well, okay. So I have a question for you, Kelsey, first.
Yes.
How long is it going to take you to watch Chernobyl?
Huh.
Can we plan on that for next week or no?
Yeah, I don't have my kids this weekend, so
okay.
As long as I'm not tearing it up too much,
oh my God.
I can watch Chernobyl.
Okay. So nuclear energy for next week?
Like the reactors and stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay.
You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kelsey,
cool.
Kelsey, can you do your homework?
I can do my homework.
Cool.
All right. So I think it's another thing that we had talked about for you that I put down for this next episode. Would just be like your expectations as a gifted and talented student and the burnout of gifted and talented students. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Yep.
Which both of us can talk about this a little bit, and not Kelsey, but
the burnout, the perfectionism, the expectations.
Yeah, I'm interested in how you view that as an observer, as a teacher nowadays.
Can I tell you? I'm not even going to say who. My favorite. I don't want to say favorite either. My favorite quote from one of your family members. Do you remember this?
I can't remember it specifically, but now that you mention it, I'm like, I remember you saying.
The quote was, "We thought you were so smart, and then you decided to be a teacher."
Oh, yeah.
One of your relatives, Kelsey.
Which one? When we're not recording, you got to tell me.
I will tell you which one. I know exactly who it was. I still remember who it was. It was like, oh yeah. It was like when we graduated high school before going into college, and the phrase was, "Oh yeah, you've always been so smart. We always thought you were so smart, and then you decided to go to school to be a teacher."
Yeah. Smartest friend of mine in college, he went to be a teacher too.
We need smart teachers.
Yeah,
like, do you want
real.
idiots teaching your kids? No. Anyways, okay.
Idiots will teach whatever they get told to teach.
What?
Idiots will teach whatever they get told to teach.
Okay.
Well, great episode, guys. Tune in next week while we talk about nuclear energy and the burnout of gifted and talented students. And thanks again for tuning in to This Wasn't on the Test. Hope you learned something new. Like and subscribe. Yes, like and subscribe.
Follow
us on Instagram at
review.
This Wasn't on the Test.
Comment.
Do all the things.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.